Hi, everyone. Welcome to the JKLMedia podcast, where we talk pop culture, genre, TV shows, books, comics, music, all kinds of things. And today we are beginning a very short series on the Peripheral, an Amazon series based on a William Gibson novel. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So there's 8 episodes, so we're going to be covering 2 every week. And I am here with my lovely and talented co-hosts, Lou. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
And Jesse. Hi, Jesse.
Hi, Karen. Hey, Lou.
Hey,
Hey, long time no
hey.
see.
Yes.
20 seconds. So let's talk first about William Gibson. If you guys don't mind, we'll talk about that up front.
Sure.
William Gibson is the pioneer of the cyberpunk science fiction genre. And I don't know about you guys. I read Neuromancer when it first came out. I was working at a bookstore at that time. And when I was in charge of the science fiction section and magazines, which is nothing like the science fiction section, but I saw it and I thought, what a cool cover and what an interesting kind of thing. It was pre-internet, but very much in my wheelhouse. I was already a computer programmer by then, essentially. I ate it up like a fish sandwich. Inside joke. And I didn't read the rest of the trilogy, but I've always had a soft spot for him and that genre of science fiction. What about you guys? Have you read any William Gibson stuff?
I have read Neuromancer. I can't say that I liked the book. I did like the concepts that he put forth in it, but that's pretty well it. He's a writer that's, I think, known better by reputation than by actual works. So that's an position for a writer to be in. But yeah, he's an interesting guy, and he lives in Canada and BC. Born in the States, but moved to Canada.
He is technically a Canadian now, right?
Yep.
He is,
Yeah.
yeah. How about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I've not read anything by him. Cannot think of any of this genre that I've ever watched.
Johnny
It is
Mnemonic. Have you seen Johnny Mnemonic?
maybe I
Matrix.
remember.
The
Yeah,
Matrix?
Matrix. I've only seen the first one.
Oh,
It is
wow.
just, it's,
Not
it,
something
And even stuff like Minority Report, which I haven't seen, just so you know, because I hate Tom Cruise.
Blade Runner.
oh,
So, Blade Runner, definitely.
I've never seen Blade Runner.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Jesse.
Audible gasp.
I know.
Hand in your nerd card.
Yep.
Yeah, it did.
Although there's stuff that I should hand in my nerd card for. So,
Well, we all have it. Yep.
A
yeah.
few years ago, we actually did that when I was part of Southgate Media. We did an episode where 4 or 5 hosts of the different podcasts joined, and we talked about things we had never watched, our blind spots of things.
In nerddom.
Yes,
That's
and everything. And in each of it was exactly what you guys said. What? I can't believe, right?
Yeah.
And it was different for everyone.
Sure.
Right? So yeah. So I do not normally care for, as you guys mentioned, that I tend to like more human stories, and this isn't something that's in my wheelhouse.
Okay.
Right? That's why when this originally came out, I'm the only one that hadn't seen it. And
Out of the 3 of us.
yeah, and to be honest, I don't know if we weren't talking about this after 2 episodes, would I keep watching it?
Okay. I get that.
Yeah, it just, and when we get to other details, we did. So yeah, so this is just something that it is a blind spot in my fandom.
Okay. He also wrote the concept for Johnny Mnemonic, just so you know.
Okay.
He's done other stuff that you've heard of, at least.
Yeah.
At Neuromancer, I'm guessing you've heard about it at some point, even if you don't remember it. It was really big in the 80s, but
I know I have no idea.
okay.
Yeah.
If you don't like the Peripheral, and Lou doesn't like Neuromancer as much, I wouldn't recommend reading it. It is very niche. I'll say that. It's not for everyone. I would equate him, and I'm blanking, but he's an author like the guy who wrote Naked Lunch. It's definitely not for anyone, but the concept is interesting, if that makes sense. I really do find that his stuff is a slog sometimes. There's a lot of stuff that goes into his works that maybe some people wouldn't get. And I'm not saying you wouldn't get it. I'm just saying.
No, one of the things that not talking genre, is am not a fan. I think we've talked about this before. I'm not a fan of Tom Clancy because it's too much. There's too much technical crap in it.
Right.
Versus I love Clive Cussler.
Right.
Because Clive Cussler says, "Oh, there's an underwater submarine, and we're going to get in it and go on a trip."
And he doesn't talk about all the dials and
Yeah,
machinery.
and while Tom Clancy will spend 3 pages just talking about the design of the. So when I hear this cyberpunk, my mind immediately goes, "There's going to be a lot of technical babble, and I just don't care about it." So, yeah,
I get it. Yeah. Plus Tom Clancy is kind of a dick. But anyway.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've met him.
Oh.
Just so you guys know. I worked at a bookstore when his novels were coming out, and he came for a signing, and he was mad we didn't have a banner up. So yeah, that was interesting. We're going to talk about The Peripheral, which it's the first book in a trilogy that's not finished yet. It's called the Jackpot Trilogy. The plan was to have 3 seasons that covered all 3 books. But because of the writer's strike late last year, November 2023, they decided to scrap any further seasons of The Peripheral. I don't know what the minutia was there, why specifically, because it's technically already written. But apparently they do have to rewrite for the screen. There was some sort of conflict with that, and they decided we don't want to wait. We'll just scrap it. I think that we get a full story with it. There's like a seed for a second season, but nothing that makes you mad that there isn't a second season, if that makes sense. So when you guys get to and I know Lou's seen it, when you get to the last episode, it's fairly wrapped up. And I like it very much. My husband and I watched it. I'll say he didn't get it quite as much as I did, but he liked it. He's not a programmer. He doesn't have a computer background, even though when he got to know me, he decided to invest time in that. Now he builds computers and stuff, which is cool, but I'm digressing. So we watched the first 2 episodes, and Jesse has already hinted that he wasn't a huge fan yet. And I'm going to say yet because I'm hoping that you do end up liking it. Even just a little better would be happy for me. But there's a lot of gaming components in it. There's technology. And so I'll ask you guys first to talk about.
Perhaps you should do a quick overview of what the Peripheral is about.
Sure. Okay. The Peripheral is about a girl. Essentially, she's the main character, the protagonist. She is a gamer, and she falls.
Flynne Fisher.
Yes. Flynne Fisher, played by Chloe Moretz. Yep. Is that her name?
Yep.
Yeah. Who I like very much. I think she does a good job in this. There's a lot of people in this that you would recognize, but their names aren't out there. Chloe Grace Moretz is really the only huge name in this, as far as I know. Maybe you guys will tell me differently, but she's a gamer. She is better at gaming than her brother. Her brother plays a Call of Duty game for money. He boosts people. That's a thing, by the way, even now, where you can pay to get boosted in a game to get to a certain level or to finish a quest or that kind of thing. In Warcraft, it's against the terms of service, so you can get banned for that. But apparently in the future, that's a common thing, that you can get a little kickback for helping a rich person get to a certain level. She's better than he is. He sometimes gives her the virtual headset and has her play for him. And that kind of sets up the whole premise that he has sent a prototype, quote unquote, a prototype for some sort of I don't know that they call it a game, they call it a scenario. And he is supposed to try it out again for money. They need money. Their mother has a tumor in her brain and she takes medicine for it. They need money. So that's what motivates her to step in, take the headset, put it on, and take his place because she knows they need money. And in doing so, she starts a chain of events that has ramifications on her timeline and a timeline in the future. Does that work as a covering?
Yep.
Okay. It's more complicated than that, but yeah. And they do get into some trouble. There are people that are trying to stop them. And there's a lot of little things that are happening on the side stories. Can I get an overview from you guys on these 2 episodes? What do you think? Okay, go, Jesse.
All right. So no, you can't. So I think part of the issue is I am not a gamer. There is just only so much life time available. And between podcasting and reading and watching TV, I just do not spend any time playing video games.
Come
I
on,
also
it's Bruce
yeah,
Springsteen that's stopping you.
Bruce
So,
Springsteen.
yeah.
And also
Woo!
I am really like bad even when I play them. The only time I used to love Infocom games, Hitchhiker's
Oh,
Guide to the
yes,
Galaxy and stuff.
Dork. Yeah,
Yeah, and all that. So those I liked because you didn't have to have good reflexes,
sure.
right? Like even trying to play Madden, I just suck at it. So I think right away, this is a premise that I don't care about. I don't care about gaming. I don't care at all. Secondly, I do not care about her brother. And in the first episode, he gets all the screen time, even though she's doing it. That bothered me. Like, wait a minute, she's our star. Why do we have to watch him? I don't care about him. Now, I get the premise that she's really good. And so, therefore, I love the fact that he's using her skills and it's got to be in his body so that this happens. I love the idea they had the callback about the saving the sheep or the lambs and how that was what led her to find the tractor and all the other things. But that was one of the first things, like, I don't want to spend time with him. I want to spend time with her doing that. And then I have no problem with multiple storylines, but I haven't seen the connections to this yet, right? Like, how is this, like, The Sims? And she says, this feels real. And so I'm like, okay, this really isn't a virtual game. This is actually, she is in somewhere. So it's intriguing. And I like our star. I like her a lot. And but it just feels like it needed a rewrite if we're going to have all these different storylines together. I haven't seen the connections yet.
Right.
Now, by the second episode, where she is saying that the vet that is injured, we need to have him, and the brother going, no, we aren't supposed to be building a community. This is real life. I thought those were really interesting, and that's when there's more heart to this, and when they're doing more heart, when they're trying to protect her mother, trying to heal her mother, and all that is what I enjoy. The actual in the virtual game is where I'm a little bored. Is that fair?
Yes,
okay.
Fair.
Okay.
And I will tell you that it might be a little slow connecting those, but it does connect.
Okay, good. And I had no doubt they would. Okay. The other thing is, I guess they did not sell me yet how everyone around the fire, when they heard there was a X million dollar bounty if they kill them, why they wouldn't have taken the bounty. They didn't set that they were that close of a family or friendship. And I guess afterwards they were all in a unit together, or they were all bound.
They served in a war together. Yeah.
So once I understood that, I go, oh, okay, yes, they would not betray their brothers.
Right.
Yeah, so that made a little sense. But my first thought was, oh, they're going to sit there and They're going to take the
Sure.
bounty,
Sure.
right? Sure.
Okay, Lou, your turn.
Yeah, it's interesting because having seen the series now, and I am a gamer. I'm big into VR gaming, especially I have a Oculus and I have a PSVR 2. I love that type of gaming. So virtual reality stuff is right up my alley. And science fiction was my primary passion. As I've gotten older, I've veered away from it, interestingly enough. I'm more into drama or murder mysteries and things like that. I think it's because it's more character driven. But I'm f fairly well versed with the trappings of virtual reality and whatnot, and science fiction in general. But I found these first two episodes, uh, especially the first one, there was just way too much stuff going on in it. And I'm trying to, like Jesse, like I'm says, how does this all connect? Why are there so many characters? Like, how can all of these characters have a part in this storyline? Like you're just, and then it's just like the setting of the quote unquote present is still in our future. So you're just trying to get used to the technology that they have. And then when they jump into this other world in London, yeah, like you're going like, okay, what's going on here? And you're off kilter because you don't know if it's a sim or if it's real. And even like the opening credits, now when I see the opening credits, I can appreciate them because I understand how the things connect. But like the stuff with London, like why do they have these big statues in the skyline like that? Like what's the deal with that? So there was just so much going on, and I just didn't have a hook into the characters. Like, what am I supposed to be? Who am I supposed to be focused on here? Because like to Jesse's point, they're setting it up to be Chloe Moretz, but then when she goes into the sim, then it's her brother Burton, and you go, okay, so am I supposed to be cheering for him more than her now? What's the deal here? I don't know how well the series did, but I imagine a lot of people were lost, especially after the first episode. There's just way too much going on there, and then you mix all that stuff with the sort of this Buford Pusser town with the sheriff and all that stuff going on, and it's what the heck is going like what where are we going with all this stuff? Now I can watch and say, okay, this is cool because I can see where this is going and where this is going, and I didn't realize this the first time through, and now I do. And the one character, Corbell Pickett, who's like the town bad guy, he's got the mustache and everything. When he's in that Havana sim, you can see like how the characters are really realistic looking, but there's still that smoothness to their features in that's not quite real. So there's little touches like that, and I realized, boy, they did a really good job from a production and technical standpoint on doing this series, and so they must have spent a lot of money on it. And yeah, it's a tough slog to get through those first two episodes. And I like there was just so many characters that I wasn't sure where it was going. And the frustrating thing for me with this series is, for me, the best characters don't come until almost halfway through or the three-quarters of the way through the series. That's another thing that was hard to take. But we've got the setup. They're trying to raise money to help her mother. There's some good. No, I'm just rambling. I better stop before. I don't know
No,
how you
that's all
want to
right.
approach it, but
Ramble away if you
okay. So
want.
I did come to the dynamic between Flynn and her brother Burton. He comes off as a hard ass. Oh, he's an ex-military guy. You expect him like he's got this Vietnam PSD thing going on, and you think he's self-absorbed. But then she finds out that he's been giving his medication to his mother and telling her that he had extra on that. So that little things like that really start to get you into the story. And the fact that he and his unit have these implants that obviously are causing them a lot of pain, or at least it's causing him a lot of pain, well, that starts to get you into the story. And of course, then you have the character Connor, who he was injured in the war, so he's lost three of his limbs, and he's got that pretty cool wheelchair and motorcycle. Well, there's another character that you can warm to. The rest of the troop is just red shirts, basically. So we don't get into them too much. I do the dynamic between Chloe and Jack, or Flynn and Burton. I, it does take a while to get going, and I think they should have maybe pushed some of the family dynamics into the first episode instead of doing it in the second. I just think I realize they only had 8 episodes to get all this stuff in, but I just think the first episode's a real tough buy for people who aren't into this sort of thing or haven't read the book. Because my God, they're jumping all over the place and there's just so many characters and so many storylines going on. And you're like going, okay, where do I set my chair down in this story so that I can get engaged with it?
Yeah, and one of the things that I worry, I, there are certainly episodes where it's all over the place of series, but I'm enjoying each little segment with them.
Hmm.
And so I'm okay. And even though I'm confused how these are going to connect, I'm okay spending time with them. I do agree with yours. Like by the end, when he's there, and are you going to remember this conversation?
Hmm.
Right? Like you have to not drink, and then the guy downs the beer in one gulp. It's there, you see this, he's being self-destructive, but because of his sister pushing him to be kind to that guy, I thought that was interesting. That was really interesting. The Lewis Hawthorne, which is the Cordell Pickett, he looks like a mustache twirling villain, so that's going to be, I liked him. The second episode felt because of the time with the family, anytime we're that, I'm buying into the story.
Hmm.
But the future and where they're not telling them what's going on is, it can be frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
she's asking the same questions we are and they're being vague and I don't know why. So it feels like they're just being dicks.
Right.
Right? And it's okay, what, so maybe this will be, but yeah, that's you said it much better than I did, Lou, about what's going on and the concerns, right?
Yeah. And
Sure.
I think and that this, some people who are William Gibson fans may umbrage with this, but I do think the series reflects his writing style in that he's much more interested in ideas and tech than he is in people. And I
Yeah.
think that shows through in these, especially the first episode. And then it starts to veer more into the characters as we get into it. And it's just maybe just a little too clever for its own good by half. Like you're trying to entice people to watch your show, but you're not making it easy. And I
Well,
don't think that's a good way to sell. Your pilot episode has to engage people. Visuals only go so far nowadays because we've seen a ton of special effects movies and even TV shows now are almost movie quality in a lot of respects. The tech in this series is impressive, but it's not enough to engage the average viewer because they get bored of that stuff pretty quickly.
and I do think it is fair that there is going to be a segment of audience that does love Tom Clancy books, right?
Yep.
That
Yep.
love the tech, and the atmosphere is more important to them than the characters,
Mhm.
right? We fans skewer Hallmark, the movie of the week that they do. And in fact, I've talked about this before. There's a Hallmark podcast when they're putting the podcast into things, they have real movie category. Like, and
Sure.
there it is very rare that a Hallmark movie will reach a point like, oh, this is a real movie. This isn't
Right.
just and so I am not, for those of you who like that kind of stuff, I'm sure this is really well done. And there is enough humanity, partly because I had to go look at, I did not watch Kick Ass. It just,
Yeah.
yeah, or Carrie. So I had not seen her in anything. She is very likable and very charismatic. And when she's on the screen, when she's worrying about her mother, when she's doing this, it is really well done. I'm also, okay, what is the invisible cars? What all is this? Do we trust that? Is the deputy sheriff, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? So there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So
Sure.
there we
Sure.
go.
Yeah.
And let me just say that when I watched this the first time,
Hmm.
my husband and I discussed it, and we had a similar mindset. Him more than me, that he was like,
Okay.
I don't know if I want to watch it. But for me, I'll admit I'm into the tech side of things.
Yeah.
I don't like too much of that,
Mhm.
but I love seeing this near future type tech, like, and it's post-apocalyptic too. It has all these little things that I'm a sucker for. And so I think that's why I got into it so quickly, more than you guys did. So That's just where I'm coming from. And our listeners should know there is always the option for one of us to say, I'm not interested in that. Let's find something else. Jesse could have said, no, thank you. I don't want to talk about the Peripheral. So I'm hoping that he has enough faith in me. And you guys also did this with devs. That also was a very odd, but I'm glad you stuck with that. And I'm hoping that you will end up, if not loving it, liking it more.
And as we talk about behind the scenes, right? Like we take turns picking things, and so it's enough for me to stick with it, because if you say this is interesting, I want to talk about it. I think part of the fun of this is, okay, why did Karen want to share this, what we do, and getting outside of my comfort zone, because there is so much out there that there is easy stuff. And for example, I didn't know about devs. And then I ended up going, wow, I am so glad we did this. Same thing with Severance, right? Like I had not planned on seeing this, and now then just amazing. So it's fun that sometimes, and if you can hit 50% on stuff, we're doing great. And you've hit way more than 50%.
Okay, good. So I'm hoping you have faith.
I do.
Because Lou and I both say it's worth watching.
Yeah.
At least I hope Lou is saying that.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yep. I came to like it quite a bit by the end.
Good.
Okay. I think the biggest, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, Jesse, is this whole conceit about people going into the sim and going into the future. To me, that was like, okay, how does that work exactly? And they don't really get into it too much yet, but they do mention quantum tunneling. And I'm going, okay, so that's anything nowadays. In the 50s with science fiction movies, it was the atom bomb or the H bomb mutations were responsible for everything. Now everything's quantum physics or quantum, in this case, quantum tunneling. So that's an interesting conceit, but I'm still, even after I'm watching the series, I'll say that I'm still not quite sold on the concept, because there's the whole time paradox stuff that they don't really address it, because they're sending stuff back in time too. So if they've sent it back, then they should already see those events have occurred in their future, because they've already sent the stuff back. So it's an interesting paradox that is not really resolved for me in the series. And so that was the other thing that was confusing me early on in the series of, well, how can they project, or how can they get into the future? Like that whole mechanism was confusing me. I don't know how you felt about that, Jerry.
I absolutely, thank you for bringing that up. I totally agree. That was just odd. And I'm like, wait a minute, what does that mean? The other thought is, okay, they must really trust their cousin to win the lottery. Because how the hell that was like, why did they have the cousin win the money versus one of them? Because how do you know the cousin won't go, okay, I'm getting out of here? So that was confusing on me a little bit. How did they do that? I didn't get that. Yeah, boy, I guess Lou and I are in sync on this, because yes, now that you mentioned, okay, wait a minute, there's time travel, and I get that your mother's going to die. We've sent this. And that was funny where, it's like pulling out weeds. There's a 57% chance this will work. And she's like, I guess you guys have a different definition of killing weeds than we do, was a funny back and forth. Mm-hmm. And even though I saw it coming, when she gets up in the middle of the night, our heroine, and I know it's the mom in the kitchen. Sure. I just know that's coming, but it's still a beautiful reveal.
Yeah.
And to see that was like, okay, this is nice. The family dynamics are what's I'm enjoying the most. And even after, I was intrigued by our villain getting the $250,000. Because this is just some crazy sim. He gets a chance to have a virtual wild night in Havana. And his wife's okay with that, right? Because this is it's virtual. Go have fun.
Well, she joins him sometimes. Apparently.
Yeah, and to have that I think it was interesting. He's virtually smoking a cigar and literally smoking his cigar,
Yep.
everything. That was interesting. But anyway, I was rambling. Go
Yeah.
back for it.
All the
Yeah.
tech he has to wear versus what
Yeah.
uh,
Sure.
Flynn wears with that mind
Yeah.
crab
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
crab head thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
I will say quantum tunneling is a thing, and I'll read you what it is. In physics, quantum tunneling, barrier penetration, or simply tunneling is a quantum mechanical phenomenon in which an object, such as an electron or atom, passes through a barrier that, according to classical mechanics, should not be passable due to the object not having sufficient energy to pass or surmount the barrier. And of course, this is near future. It's in 30, 2040, something like
Yeah.
that. I don't remember.
The present day
But
of the series is
2032.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's
Right.
8 or 10 years ahead of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the London thing
So
is 2070, 2090. I can't remember.
it's 70 years past
70 years in the
that.
future. Okay, so it's
So
yeah,
2090-ish.
3000.
Yeah. So they're implying that her brain, the waves from her brain have broken that barrier between 2032 and 2090-ish, that they can pull her. And I will say, Lou, the reason that they don't see the effects in the future is because they have split. That's why they call
Oh,
her
that's right. Yeah, stub.
thing a
That's right.
stub.
Yeah. So every time they
Nothing
connect with
she
her, a new timeline is
Correct.
created. Yeah.
So nothing that happens in the past will show up in the future because it's a
Right.
whole different timeline. They explain that, and I assume that's how things would happen, obviously, because you're changing something in the present. And I firmly believe in a multiverse, which I'm sure some people poo, but if you can make one decision, you can make every decision. So every time you make a decision, there is another you in another universe making the other decision or another decision. And I guess that's why I'm so into dark matter and all that stuff. I buy into it 100%. I am the time travel thing right up my alley. You guys know I love time travel stuff. And I also believe that, and this is something contradictory to this show, I think that you will never be able to go back in time, ever. I think it's always moving into the future. We have already done that with astronauts who have lived differently than the people on Earth. Their timeline is different from when they come back. Things are different. They're not the same age as the people that were here, that kind of thing. And it's different than time travel, quote unquote. But there is definitely the whole time being a concept that is fluid in certain cases.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure I'm talking above people's heads and being really obtuse, but I'm sure you guys understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So,
no, you clarified that for me. That's actually an excellent point because the fact that every time they bring her back, they've created a new timeline, but their present, like the London present, persists, so they can't see the impact of their actions, which I like quite a bit because that they're locked into their reality. That's not going to change. The only thing they can do is hope that the past changes, and then, but even then, even if they're successful in trying to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, they'll never know because they're locked into their reality, which is a good twist on the whole time paradox thing.
wanting to change the future thing.
Yeah. So I like that quite a bit.
And we do see that pay off later, just so you know, Jesse. There is that is very important, that she's diverged from the other timeline.
Because unlike on 12 Monkeys, they came back and the reason they can remember is because they were in the bubble.
Yeah.
Correct.
Same thing with Quantum Leap. They talk about that everyone else only because they're in that bubble, which is a fair get, right? Like that way you would remember. Okay, that's good to know. Before we go forward, do you recommend me watching the first two again, or should I just go straight to 3 and 4 And then maybe this is a series that when it ends, rewatching it over might give me.
I would say go to 3 and 4 next.
Okay, good
Yeah.
deal.
No
Okay.
need to rewatch.
If you feel the need to rewatch it after you've seen the whole thing, then by all
Then
means.
go for it.
But
Okay.
I can say from my experience, I definitely enjoyed these first 2 episodes a lot more this time than I did the first time I
Okay,
watched them.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Super. Okay.
I did go back and rewatch most of it after I watched it the first time. So I've seen some of these episodes twice, and I'm talking about skimming them. I was doing something else while they were on. Not the first time through, but like the second time through, I was working, and in the background, it was on another monitor. And I did pick up things that I didn't notice the first time, and it cemented some things after I saw it twice. So I
Okay.
highly recommend, if you're at all interested by the end of this, feel free to go back and watch the first 2, because I think you'll appreciate them a little bit more. It does set up some stuff that it comes out of left field. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think another weakness of the series is, for me, is a lot of the characters are dicks, to put it
Yep.
bluntly. Like, they're not likable characters. There's the Fisher family, but and obviously the injured character.
Connor, yeah.
Those
Well,
are the
all
likable.
his war buddies are,
Yeah, but the other ones are not really. Like I
sure.
said, they're more red shirts. But those characters are likable. But all the characters in the future, even the one that we're supposed to, I think, like a bit, is the Wilf, the fixer guy. He's likable, but he hasn't played fair and straight with Flynne either. So he's ambivalent about him as well. I think that's another part of the series that makes it difficult to get into as well.
Agreed.
But
And again, you do learn more
Yeah.
backstory about
Yeah,
Wolf
yeah.
later on.
But for Jesse, I don't know if you caught it. There was this one scene when Flynn is in Jack's body in the future, and he goes to that party, and there's all those people at that reception there, and she pointed out that one character, Charisse Newland, who was the black lady. Did you ever watch Bly Manor?
No.
No, oh, it's too bad, because she's in that, and she's fantastic in that series, and she's good in this one too. But she plays two totally different characters. The one in Bly Manor, you really love that character.
Oh, Bly Manor. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you said blind.
Oh no,
No, she's
maybe
good in that.
maybe I did. It was just my stumbling over words. But yeah, she's really good in both series. But in Bly Manor, she just plays a much more really likable character, and she's good.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was also in The Haunting of Hill House. Not a big part, a little part.
Yes, yeah, a little part.
Yeah. But she's very good in Bly Manor. She plays a pretty significant part in that.
Yes, very significant. Yeah.
Yeah. She's been in a lot of things too. She's one of those type of people. She's going to be in The Fall of the House of Usher. Oh no, she was in it. Oh yeah, she's one of the siblings on The Fall of the House of
Yes.
Usher.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in his stuff a lot.
Yeah.
Mike
Yeah.
Flanagan.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's good.
With this series, I could say with the first 2 episodes, the groundwork has been laid, and I think you should find your enjoyment increase as we get into the next couple of episodes.
And
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting discussion, the empathy bonus,
Right.
right? The
Yep.
idea that the game rewards you, but in real world there isn't. And that's not, I had a friend once that said, I was talking about I'm doing something to try to get good karma out in the universe. And he said, but if you're trying to get good karma, doesn't that make it where it's counterproductive and you
Right.
shouldn't be rewarded? But I like to think that, and I partly because that's my nature, is that hopefully doing the right thing in the long term will result in a better life for everyone.
Right.
And
And you're doing it without the expectation of getting something back.
yeah.
And that's the whole point. We've talked about The Good Place. And that's
Yeah.
the whole thing behind The Good Place is you can't,
Yeah.
once you have motivation to do good for yourself,
Yeah.
then it doesn't count anymore. Oh yeah, I love that empathy bonus.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, so I am intrigued. I am much more intrigued after our discussion now than I was beforehand. Though there were enough by the second half of the second episode, I was enjoying this a little more. And
Right.
we'll see. I do think the time travel is going to be interesting, what they're trying to do here. But I'm looking forward to going through 3 and 4 and seeing where we go next on this.
Yeah, you're not alone about the first episode. I was there too, a little more invested because of the whole gaming thing for me. But yeah, that's fair, I think. So I have one more thing to talk to you guys about, and it's just a tiny little thing. But what do you think of that 3D printer business that they 3D print? Because we're getting close to that, right? Yep. You can 3D print medicine. You can 3D print stuff for a house. Yep. As long as you put the right chemicals into the printer.
Okay.
Yep. You can 3D print it. It's like combining them in a machine.
Yeah. I didn't know it was used for that, but
yep.
I just
you
thought
can
it was
3D
for
print
making facsimiles of things.
You can't 3D print living things, obviously.
Right. Obviously. Yeah.
But
that would be a transporter.
Man, exactly. Or what do you call it? The food thing. What do you call that thing where they get their food?
Replicators?
Thank you.
Yes.
A replicator.
Yeah.
It's pretty close to a replicator, to be honest. And I love that they used technology that we can relate to, but just accelerated. Like you can do a lot of different things with it. Mm-hmm. And I love that she works for it. It's her main gig, but it's also a side gig for her because she's more into gaming, but she can't make a living at that. So she chooses to do something similar to what she wants to do. And I love that. I love that whole environment that she is, it's not her calling. She grudgingly goes there and works. And I think it's also very interesting to see the town. Like it has all the old storefronts, like the town apparently had been cleared out and all those businesses died, but they keep the storefronts and they just change the window decals or whatever. And that's an epidemic in our country that businesses are moving out of towns and it decimates the town and businesses don't go into those buildings. But we see the pharmacy is in an old building. We see the 3D printer business is in an old building, and we see other stuff that it looks like old buildings repurposed. And I thought that whole setting was really an interesting take on what the future is going to look like. So what do you guys think on that micro level of like where the setting is in that small town?
It's difficult to say right now without spoiling things for
without
Jesse.
Giving anything away.
But I do think that for a way to get the audience into the series, it's the only thing that's really relatable at everything they're showing. So I do think that's a wise choice to do the small town vibe or setting. But again, you're off put a little bit because they've got all this new technology that we are not privy to. So it puts you off balance a little bit because you're seeing like this Andy Mayberry town, but they've all got this kind of like Back to the Future technology.
And I think that might be some of the point that it means to put you off kilter.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Jesse?
They're shutting down the factory, boys, and these jobs aren't coming back. I did think of that when she goes to the pharmacy and it looks so worn down.
Yep.
Right? And so I do think that is interesting, these small towns. And this is a reality that I'm not involved, but I have seen people talking about. Commercial real estate is in a pretty bad place because of after the pandemic, so many companies have gone virtual. And so you don't need that office anymore. Yesterday we were at lunch and Linda mentioned that we were out of Cokes. And so while we were at lunch, I went to the app. I put down what we needed from our local grocery store. I said that I'd pick it up in 2 hours. By the time we were done with lunch, they sent me a text that's ready. I drove to the parking lot. I texted, they come out and they put the
They load everything up. Yep.
Groceries in our back. And Linda said, you hate going into the grocery store, don't you? And I'm like, it's just so much easier,
What's
right?
the point? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I, I understand that local bookstores need support and I feel bad, but it's just so easy to go to Amazon and just
Sure.
pick up a book and go. So, yeah, I think it is really, I think that they may be underestimating that it isn't going to take till 2030 for this. It could be even sooner. But
Correct.
yes, that does make the idea. The other thing is the company I work for now, our CEO just left the company and is working for a company that manufactures electric bikes. And
Oh
I saw
yeah, I
her
love her
electric
electric
bike.
bike.
Yeah, and they said that he recently did. He says he thinks in the future that they'll have an EV car and they'll have a fuel car because for short trips, the EV will work better, but you'll need a fuel car or a hybrid for longer trips. And then he says, and I believe that for even shorter trips, electric bikes are going to be something that people will want to do. I thought of that. Yeah, it is setting up a realistic world, but it also is that one of my nitpicks is it's $1,000 for one pill, yet the inflation doesn't seem to be as equal. Like $250,000 is still supposed to be a lot of money, but it costs $1,000 for just one pill.
Through the underground
Okay.
place.
Okay.
They can charge whatever they want, right? The drug dealers.
That's
So
a good
that's
point. Okay.
but through the pharmacy, we don't know how much it costs through the
Yeah.
pharmacy because it's paid for already.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah.
And I do love the electric bike. Those have existed for a long time with
Yeah.
motorized bikes and stuff. So it's cool to see her riding this. And
Yeah.
also Connor's wheelchair and everything. I love seeing that near future type device. Very cool.
Mhm.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
All right. We don't give grades for these, but I'm glad you guys are watching this with me. It's not my favorite series of all time, definitely, but I was impressed with it by the end. And I like that Lou feels the same way, at least. I'm hoping you're nodding. And I'm hoping that Jesse will like it. Although if you don't, I won't feel bad either. I get it. But at the very least, having you watch something you haven't seen before. And hopefully we're introducing other people to it.
Yeah. And I think there's so much out there that it's nice to explore something, as I said, out of my comfort zone.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you might like it, and it might send you down a rabbit hole of other things that you would enjoy and that kind of thing.
Yeah, for just a slight side note, my wife and son always laugh that when we go to a restaurant, I am the one that will order something different. They tend to order the same thing. And 2 weeks ago, we went to a Tex-Mex restaurant that we'd only gone once or twice, and they had Mexican fried rice on the menu. So they took Spanish rice with chicken and beef fajita mixes with peppers and cheese all mixed together, right? And I'm like, God, that sounds really good. And I really didn't like it because either the cumin or some kind of seasoning just didn't enjoy.
Overpowered it, maybe?
Yeah. And they were like, why aren't you going to complain? I'm like, no.
I tried it.
I tried it. I didn't care for it. I'm okay.
It's not their fault you didn't like it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so same thing, right? I like trying different things. And if it ends up I like it, great. If it doesn't, we're okay.
You had a different experience.
Yeah. The good thing about this series, it becomes much more character focused as it goes along.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah, it set up all the technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it devolves, I hate to say that, but devolves into a more character-driven story. And yes, there are a ton of characters. All the way to the end, there's still a ton of characters. But you do end up seeing connections between them all, and you understand where they fit in the story. So
super.
All right. So thank you for watching these 2 episodes with me, and we will continue next week with episodes 3 and 4. And let's just end up with telling me where people can find you. So, Jesse, how about you?
Yeah, I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on X, aka Twitter. You can hear me talking the new Doctor Who on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Will Goody Chadway is really off to a great start as the Doctor. I've really enjoyed these. And then I have, as we're doing this, there is a pretty cool Set Lusting Bruce episode that's coming out. A Nancy Barr had, I won't get into the whole story, I talked about it in the episode, but she ended up getting 4 of her friends that they only know each other because through Bruce Springsteen. None of them live in the same town. We joined for a round table discussing their fandom as females. And so it was a really great roundtable that I was able to move around and talk. So check that out on Set Listing Bruce and Next Stop Everywhere, as I talked about. And I'm looking forward to on this channel when we're talking Babylon 5, because we are getting close to the end of season 4.
We are.
Yeah.
Okay, Lou, how about you?
You can find me on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, where you'll find episodes of my writer interview podcast, Stephen King podcast, and the Babylon 5 podcast, which is our flagship podcast right now, as Jesse just mentioned. And also, you will find these JKL Media podcasts, where we do a whole bunch of one-offs: Midnight Mass, Quester Tapes, Green Mile, We Are the World, 12 Monkeys, Tragically Hip, Dark Matter, The English, Station 11, a whole bunch more, all interesting and noteworthy. And we even did Barbie, noteworthy series. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this week. This Tuesday, Stephen King's newest book gets released, You Like It Darker, which is a collection of 12 short stories, including one which is a sequel to Cujo. So yeah, exciting times.
Yes, very much.
And
It's already been bought.
Good for you. And you can find me on Twitter at Lou W. Sitzma, SYTSMA.
Excellent. You can email us at jklb5podcast@gmail.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Or is it JKL Media?
It is. As I pull up the email, I will tell you right now.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. We'll fix it in post.
JKLB5
podcast. JKLB5 podcast at gmail.com.
Awesome. So you can write us there. We always forget to put that in. And as you can see, because we can't even remember what it is. And you can find me at Elevaria on most social media sites, and my blog, alleystuff.com, and the landing page has a bunch of links that you might find interesting. And I would mention, we didn't discuss Dark Matter, the show. We discussed the book, since we're only 3 episodes in on the show. But yeah, I love Dark Matter. Okay, that's it for this week. As I said, we'll be back with episodes 3 and 4, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. And scene.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.